Cool. Let's start. So, yes, we are almost done. Only like this is probably the last knowledgeable session. One Sunday session will be there, which will not be around that much of a knowledge, but more of a mentorship guidance kind of thing. So that is also very essential. And the last part of it, we till now we have covered what and why of product management. We have covered on the day three, we covered the strategy of it, how we can build our roadmap, which was the essence for this cohort. Uh, Now, while preparing for the roadmap, we there are many questions in mind whether this thing is necessary or not, whether 80% of the time devotion towards mock interview practice is necessary or not. And for that, there is a follow-up discussion today on what the actual selection process of product entry level product role is, what are the relevant resources, how we can get them, and if we are planning to buy some of the resources, whether enrolling in a cohort or buying some books, etc., what should our strategy be there, right? So this today's discussion is all around these topics, and let's go ahead. You can see my screen, right?
Yes, Harshit.
Yes.
Yes.
Sure, sure, sure. Cool. So, all right. Um, Selection process in the entry level role, either by deck making or by interview, there are two kind of problem statement presented to us. First kind of problem statement is product design. This is based solely on my experience, and there is no such rules out there. But for the 10 to 15 companies which I have interviewed with, and performed very good there, I have seen these rounds happening more often, right? And even if it is a deck making process, there will be some flavor of product design or root cause analysis to it. More product design than less root cause analysis. If there is an interview, there is a chance of 50-50% of these two kinds of problem statement being put forward to you, either in two separate stages, like stage one will be root cause analysis, stage two will be product design, or vice versa, or in the same interview there will be two problem statements, one of each flavor, right? um Not neglecting the fact that the interview will start from the question why product management, and you need to be prepared very very thoroughly on that question. That was very essential question which we covered in day one itself. And most of us, I went through all the answers, and most of the answers were on point. There are some concerns which we'll address in the next day, right? Next day means day 7, the last day. All right. So cool. So these two kind of questions, right? Product design and root cause analysis. Let's deep dive into each of these. Now, product design is something like you are a product manager and you have resources, you have team of designers, you have team of technical developers, right? You need to build a product. Now, your approach should be first to clarify, right, what we are building, the what part of it, what actually we are trying to build. The statement might be very simple. uh, let's say design a washing machine for Facebook, right? Let's say this is a very vague statement, but let's say this is the statement. It might look very very simple, right? But you should be very clear with the understanding of what washing machine means to you as interviewee and what it means to the interviewer. So clarify it. So uh, in my process, I have made a checklist of questions and the template kind of script kind of thing which I went through in every interview process. And this is like I recommend, like this will only come when you do a lot of mock interviews and you build that habit, cultivate that habit of thinking about the problem statement. and these scripts, these templates will emerge from your understanding, and everyone has their own uh, theme to follow in the product interviews, and you build your own theme to your taste, to your understanding. So on a rough scale, it goes like this: you clarify what the problem, what the product means to you and the interviewer, be on the same page, and then you address the pain point. If it is specifically mentioned to address a certain user segment, then it's okay, go ahead with that user segment. Else, you identify a user segment to whom you will be designing product for, and then address the pain points which is present for that user segment for following this product, right? I'll take up the question, so don't worry, it's a very open-ended discussion. So let me walk you through one of the interview templates, and then we'll take the question, then we'll deep dive into root cause analysis interview template, and then we'll again take the questions, and then we'll see some general themes which appear in all these interviews, right? And like I'll say interviews, but consider this deck as well, because deck is nothing but your interview being done in a presentation format, right? So my understanding of deck is only that the interview is not sitting in front of you, but interviewer is not sitting in front of you, but he or she will be evaluating your ideas, your product skills via that document. So the all the things which are valid here are valid for the deck as well. All right, cool. So you identify the users, you clarify what product you are going to build, you identify the users, you check the pain points, and when you then you select the pain points. Every step is actually a filter for the next step. In every step you will see a number of users, then you will filter, all right, this particular user. Then you will see a number of pain points, you will filter, all right, these three pain points I'll be focusing on. And then and every step is actually you take a pause, you think, right? In deck you take a space break, you roll out a new section. All right, now you have the pain points ready, you have the idea of product ready, and you have the users ready, and everything is, the atmosphere is set for you to create the product, right? Then you design that product on a very rough scale. You give the idea of what the new user flow will look like by using your product, and how it is different from the previous user journey, right? And the most common question I get is, like, previously there was no product, then how can we identify what the user journey would look like, right? You have to understand that even though there was not any defined product for that particular pain point, users still achieved that result which this product is achieving. For example, if you're building, let's say, a a camera for old people, that might be a fairly new product, right? And the user journey will be new in that sense. But even if this product did not exist previously, old people used camera, and that user journey was there, right? So you need to compare both of those user journey here, and you have to defend that your user journey is significantly better than the previous user journey which the certain user segment followed, right? Lay out the user journey, and then measure the impact of your product. Measure, like, there are 6 categories of measurement. This is put by Shreyash Doshi, uh, whom we talked in the day one, right? You can check out his tweet on product metrics, and he categorizes metrics into 6 terms. 3 of them are essential in product interviews: the adoption, usage, and the satisfaction part of it. So we have to measure all these 3 aspects. There are the other 3: outcome metric, health metric, and ecosystem metric. You might use it, might be a bonus point, but do not rely on those 3 metrics more often, right? And after that, the measurement of impact, the case is fairly complete. But there are something which you, if the time remains, if the space remains, you do these things, call outs, like what are the mitigation strategy if any problem occurs, GTM, go to market strategy, right? and the pricing model, how the pricing of this particular product will look like. This is not necessary. I have never faced situation in which I have to deep dive into any of these three things, even call out any of these three things. But just to keep in mind, these three are also a part of product design interviews. In higher stages of product career, there might be interviews focused on any of the part, right? There might be a product interview just solely focused on the go to market strategy of a product, etc. Depends on what kind of company and what kind of specialized role of product management you are interviewing for. But for the entry level, product design and root cause analysis is the go-to problem statement which we are uh, given, right? So I'd like to take a pause here and take up any points which you like to discuss in this product design process, product design interview process. Was I audible this whole time?
Yes. What is call out and GTM?
All right. So call out is essentially like, this is not called call out. I have just written it here. It's you need to call out where your product will fail. So you need to signal that I have built this product that, but this might fail in this edge cases, right? So there's pitfalls and mitigation strategy, right? For example, if you're building some product and it uses machine learning, you need to call out that the models might be biased, right? And in that situation the product might fail. So those kind of call outs you need to do, uh, right? It is not necessary, but it is a healthy practice to do that. GTM is go to market strategy, right? So you built a product and then the product is in a conceptual state. Let's say you have built a MVP, but you need to ship that product, right? So how will you ship that product? So there can be like, you can what I wrote in my uh, like template is, we can roll out a beta, iterate it. From the beta version we can generate frequently asked questions. Then based on that FAQs we can build a alpha product and then ship it. Then we can, in the version 2 of it, we can improvise upon some of the aspect, and that is essentially the market strategy. Like how are you going to roll out the product? There can be market strategy like all the Indian startups which does market strategy in such a way. They roll out in Bangalore and Gurgaon, and based on the performance in these two cities they roll out across all the other major city, and based on the major city performance they then penetrate into tier 2 3. That is essentially go to market strategy, right? All right, any other doubt regarding a product design selection, like in selection process in which product design questions is asked? Nope. I guess there is no question because you haven't had any mock interviews. So I get that. So when you will have mock interviews, you will understand what this whole, uh, you know, step by step process of that interview looks like, right? Or the question looks like. All right. So let's move on to the root cause analysis question.
Actually,
Bhaiya,
I have one doubt.
Sure, go ahead. Why are you waiting, man? Come on.
So basically, can you please walk us through the decks, how to prepare for the decks, and what are the pain points that we have to keep in mind while preparing decks? Like I've seen your Flipkart deck, your LinkedIn that you have posted. So what are the pain points that we have to keep in mind while preparing the product decks, and what are the other resources that we have to use to, and the templates that we have to use while preparing decks? So can you please go through that and let us take the example of Flipkart only?
Sure. So deck making is a very intense process. In it, not intense in a sense, it is very hard process. Intense in a sense, but because we have to cover many other parameters of deck making, the designing part of it, the content part of it, etc. So I'm planning a separate cohort focused on deck making process. So like this is very much out of the scope of this particular cohort, which essentially was to build a roadmap on your product journey, right? But having that said, the deck making process along with the interview process is much more of a system than of a expertise, right? You need to build a system. In interview you need to build a template of how you will perform in the interview. What are the first questions you're going to ask? How will you structure the interview? after the user journey, with how will you, direct the interview towards your understanding, right? So that is a system, that is the art of making a system. In the deck, it is design system, right? You need to build a template, you need to build a color system, you need to specify the text, the fonts, the size, the theme, etc. And once that system is in the place, then only you need to put your ideas, and the deck will be made very efficiently. So that
So any software do you use for the deck preparing? Any template? Any
I
software do
used
you
pen
use?
and paper. I used pen and paper, and there are many specialized software for deck making, but I used pen, paper, and then I used to transfer my ideas into Google Slides. For the interview, I used pen paper for structuring my thoughts, and n- there was no need to transfer for the interview process to any other software. It's more of a system kind of thing. It's it's the mental game, not the tools game. So yeah, for the high fidelity design, I used Figma, but and I used Figma only to that extent where I needed to copy paste the copyright free designs and used in my decks. So yeah, you need to create a system. It's a very uh, it's a very haphazard and uh, noisy process, right? If you just go and start making presentation without having any structure, first work on the structure, and once your structure is very solid, you can make one complete presentation in one day of deck, right? So first you need to build a very robust system, and more so uh, uh, in your case, in the next year, there will be much more product companies coming in. That means there will be much more deck to be made in very stipulated, very short amount of time. So you need to have a very solid system in which you can build several decks, right? You need to build a very solid templates. And not only template, I use the term system because templates only have the design part of it. System has design and logic also. Like you need to have a logic that ये situation आएगा तब I will use these kind of elements. ये situation, those logics also reside in your system, right? So you need not ever think of how to design a deck. You only need to think of how to put your ideas in the deck, right? So that kind of system, like work on that system, right? So we will cover this in next cohort. Maybe I'll announce when that cohort is live.
Sure, that will be more helpful. So basically, the statement is problem statement has been given by the company. So accordingly, you have to make the decks, or from our choice, so we can make the
Yeah, say the
decks.
problem statement is very, very open, and most of the company keep problem statement very open, right? Even our institute, only High Labs gave a very definite, defined problem statement. Other than that, all the companies, the problem statement was very open-ended. Design a product for dating application, design, like Flipkart's problem statement was essentially to build a startup around our idea. So every problem statement was very open-ended, no restrictions whatsoever, right? And that is the most challenging part, because if the problem statement is open-ended, it becomes a our decision making is tested to its extreme level, right? How we will go about selecting the user if there is no one to guide which user is having the most prominent pain point, etc. So we need to defend our stance in the product deck itself, that we are going ahead with this category of user because of these reasons, and you can find more about it in the footer section. You give the links to the article, etc. Yeah, so that is very another story. I would like to bring the focus back to the selection process. The selection process is basically uh, two-legged system in the entry level. First leg is the product design part of it. The second leg is root cause analysis part of it. And in all the companies in which I have interviewed, these two were asked, right? Either in the form of interviews or in the form of deck making.
भैया, I have a doubt.
Yes.
मतलब मेनली, मतलब जब मैं इंटरव्यूज देती हूँ तो हैपेंस व्हाट कि many of times I see that the interviewer is not so interested in like in
Hmm.
participating one on one, but just
Yes.
they want to टेल मतलब मेरे ऊपर ही छोड़ देते हैं कि अब मैंने प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट बता दी है, और लाइक इफ आई एम आस्किंग मोर क्लैरिफाइंग क्वेश्चंस देन उनके आंसर्स होते हैं ये तो तुम पता करो.
Yes. So you need to
So
understand,
like
yeah, this is a very common problem which nobody cares about, and this will only this problem can only be solved if you give like, let's say, 20s and 30s and 50s of mock interviews. Then you will gain maturity on how to tackle interviewers, right? So interviewer never like interviews in like in the, let's say, Indian scenario, the interviewer are not trained to take interviews, right? Generally the interviewers are 2 or 3 level seniors in our product line, right? And they, from the HR department, they get a notification like, you need to take interview of XYZ candidate and score it according to that template, and then give the results to the department, right? So that is an additional job which the product like which the employee had to have to perform, right? So it is a headache for in most of the case it is not which interviewer willingly comes for taking your interview. He or she has been forced to take your interview. So keeping that in mind, interviewer generally does not prepare a problem statement and come, right? So once you understand that the interviewer are not preparing problem statement and coming to take interviews, so when you ask clarifying questions, they might not have clear idea of how to answer your clarifying question, and then they will say to it is open ended, you think about it, you make necessary conclusions, and those kind of statements will be passed on to you. So this problem can only be tackled when you practice more and more of mock interviews with your juniors, with your batchmates, with your alums, with anyone you find who is willing to take your mock interview, right? And after a certain level of mock interviews, you will be comfortable in dealing with all kind of interviewers, right? So that is another point which is very much very well highlighted in this particular stage itself. I was going to cover it in the last day, that whatever we are learning is only the theory part of it. The actual practical side of it will only happen if we take mock interviews, and these kind of problem will you know be solved only when we practice a lot of mock interviews, right?
yes bhaiya, cool, I got it.
Yep.
बट मतलब भैया लाइक अगर मतलब जैसे वहां पे ऐसा सिनेरियो बन रहा है, तो वुड इट बी राइट कि मैं मतलब मेरे पास बहुत सारे क्लैरिफाइंग क्वेश्चंस है, और बेस्ड ऑन दैट क्लैरिफाइंग क्वेश्चंस आई हैव डिफरेंट प्रॉब्लम स्टेट लाइक पेन
Understood.
पॉइंट्स यू कैन से,
Yes.
और हाँ,
Yeah.
तो क्या फिर मैं वो स्टार्ट कर दिया करूँ क्या कि स्ट्रक्चराइज करके कि इफ दिस इज द प्रॉब्लम देन आई विल गो इन दैट डायरेक्शन और सो
No,
ऑन.
first of all, you have to maintain your calm, right? Very calmly and politely say that, all right, I can, from this part of the interview, I have concluded these three problem statement or these three routes in which I can take the interview forward. But based on my understanding of the problem statement and these XYZ hints which I've got while solving the problem statement, I think this route will be the perfect route to arrive at the solution, right? So you need to, आपको उसे बताना है कि भाई आपने एक्सॉस्टिवली सोच लिया, एंड देन आपको ये भी बताना है कि आपका डिसीजन मेकिंग स्ट्रांग है, एंड आउट ऑफ ऑल दो लिस्ट व्हिच यू हैव एनलिस्टेड, you are going ahead with the most promising journey which will help you get the solution, right?
अच्छा.
Make the job of the interviewer very free, do not pressurize your interviewer for anything. Make the life of the interviewer very much easier, and you can make the life of the interviewer very much easier only when you uh, you know like only when you get into his mind and confirm his bias that you are a very much well suited candidate for that job, right? So you have to reinforce his belief that you are a very great candidate for his or her organization. So your job is just that, right? And like one part of the interview is all this problem solving and proving your product acumen, etc. The other part of the interviewer is showing that you are a great fit for the organization. So you need to maintain your calm, you need to be very much human, and you very much reliant, etc. Those kind of soft skill you need to show, right? That you are very much ambient and listening, etc. So that is also, again, more often than not, can be practiced in mock interviews and can be worked upon. Cool. Let's move to root cause analysis, I guess. How much time is left? Oh, it's like I'll rush the root cause analysis now. So root cause analysis, almost the same approach as the product design part of it. Only now the problem statement is, we have only 10 minutes left. I'll cover this slide and then move on to the next two slides, which is planned. Cool. So root cause analysis, you need to understand, like root cause analysis is essentially the root of the, there somewhere lies the root of the problem, and you are given a very vague metric, that this metric is going down. You need, from that you need to build a case from there and find the root cause, and maybe after that give some suggestions, right? But the suggestions part of it is not very much prominent. Finding the root cause and having a very structured approach to finding a root cause is what tested. So first you need to understand, right? Understand the whole situation, understand the company, understand the product, understand different business models around that product, and then some of the metrics are not performing well in the root cause, right? So of the problem, in the problem statement which you are presented, you need to understand how that metric is tied towards the goal of the company, etc. You need to understand the metric, right? And then you need to break down the metric into mathematical format. Cool. And once you are you have understood the metric, understood the company, understood everything, the whole structure is ready, take a pause and then ask clarifying question about around demographics, around which time zone does the problem occur, around which geographic region does the problem occur, around which user demographics does this problem occur, around which device technographics does this problem occur, etc. You need to understand the whole demographics part of it, right? And once you are like once, and then you will derive many hints during all this discussion, and you will have some intuition where the problem might be lying. But to make everything more concrete and very exhaustive in its essence, explore the external side of it, the competitors, the market, the government intervention, the ecological side of it, etc. Right? Once you are covered with the external part of it, go to the internal side of it. the, are there any internal major changes in the UI UX, major changes in the policy of the company, etc., right? And once you are done with all these analysis, either you will hit the root cause or you will be very much closer to the root cause, right? And then you need to perform the action flow of the journey. It is almost like a user flow, but it's more than a user flow. User flow is essentially seeing what the path the user takes in achieving a certain goal. But in the action flow, you also have to analyze what the company is doing, right? So if the user is onboarding, there is some technical component to it, the authentication part of it. There's some design limitations to it, right? With whether this login button is visible or not, and there's some operational side of it. Let's say we are running a capture button which checks the users whether that is working or not. So all those other aspect, the operations, design, and the technical, these three also comes in this particular journey. So this, I call it action flow. So complete action flow you need to analyze, and then you will understand where the root cause lies, right? Quickly, just giving a one more call out, that the action flow, uh, in any case, you do not need to deep dive at first, right? Do not deep dive into, all right, so this is not necessary in this particular cohort. Again, I'm planning 2 more cohorts after this particular how to prepare for product management. One cohort is deck making, and another cohort is interview. So in the interview part of it, we will discuss in very great detail these two concepts, these two flows of interview. So again, so action flow need not be very long action flow. It can be segmented in 2-3 segments itself. And once you identify that this particular segment is having a problem, then you zoom into that particular segment and again break down that segment into certain sub segments and go ahead. Right. So uh, that is the root cause analysis question. We are very short on time, so I'll be covering the general theme here now. So general theme of both the selection process is you need to be very clear in your approach, your communication, and your understanding. You need to be very logical with the next steps which you are taking. Every next step should be connected to your previous steps, and previous steps should act as a filter to your next step, right? uh, that means the next step should be guided by your previous steps, and you need to be mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive with your approach. Right, you need not miss any case, you need not miss any edge case, right? Try to be as much messy as you can. Right. With that, let's move on to next slide. We are only 4 minutes left, and resources part of it. In a very in 2-3 minutes, I'll tell the gist of the essence here, and then we will discuss on Discord channel. And last section, the buying guide, how you can make a great decision in where to invest your time, energy, and money. That will cover in the Discord channel. All right, cool. So resources. First thing, the product is a very wide and a very new field. So there are many resources in form of courses, in form of MBA school programs, etc. There are certain MBA school programs which are running on product management recently. So how you can go about finalizing the resources? First of all, what are the resources available? There are cohorts, and from the cohorts you can check out the syllabus. That is one of the great resource, in my opinion, because syllabus are generally displayed and it is available for all for free. So when you check the syllabus, you can Google the terms and you can get almost the same content which the cohort has kept in a gated community otherwise, right? So check the syllabus, make a list of the important terms and concepts, and just Google it or YouTube it, and you will get almost the same concept and theory, right? That is resource number one. Second is articles and YouTube, and you can include books here as well, right? So the text and the video part of it, and maybe there are some product podcast as well. So you need to be diligent in choosing these, right? First of all, you need to understand that the purpose of these resources for you is to crack the product interviews, and you need to be very thorough in that approach, right? Only choose resources which are helping you to develop the skills which are required to crack interviews, right? Once you have cracked interviews, you can then deep dive into the product world and then do your research, etc., right? But yeah, so I would not recommend to dive into any detailed product articles, etc. For YouTube, you can check out the interview preparation part of it. There are two channels, Exponent and Rocket Blogs, which do fantastic job in product interviews, and you can get some idea how product interview is done. The third part of it is mentors, right? You need to connect with your seniors or your friends who are doing product, who are in product roles, and they will guide you, they might guide you into how to prepare for it, how to they might be your interviewer, etc. So that is very essential resource which everyone miss, right? Most of us. And we have to capitalize on the third one, the mentors part of it. So be in touch with seniors and those who are in product, in your connection, and take mock interviews with them, discuss with them your strategy of preparation, right? Cool. So that was the resources part of it. I'll take this discussion in the Discord now. So I'm opening Discord, and yep. So, all right, I have to create one event, create event. इसके पहले तो मुझे एक ये बनाना है, वॉइस चैनल बनाना है, because स्क्रीन में शेयर नहीं कर पाता. Create a channel, create a voice channel, new channel discussions, create channel. Let's hop into the voice channel. I'm already in. All right. I'm carrying forward the discussion there. Join कर सकते हो वहाँ पे? Cool. All right. Bye. End meeting for all. Let's join in the Discord.